Hey everybody, welcome to TBC Plays. I'm the Brit Canuck, a long-time EQ and MMO player, and we now know a new TLP is heading our way in 2022, so I'm carrying on my series of videos where I show you what to hunt, where to camp, what loot to aim for, and how to complete those hunter achievements. Today I'm looking at Sol B, otherwise known as Nagafens Lair. Nagafens Lair, Sol B, is nestled away in Lavastorm mountains, and it's actually an active volcano. So the lore goes that all these caves were made not by these kobolds, but by the Goblins of Sol 6I or Sol A. And it's also the prison of one of the first dragons that you will see in Norrath, Lord Nagafen. He is a raid boss, he dropped some awesome loot, and I'll be covering him very soon in a raid guide. But today what I'll be looking at is how you will be leveling, what the camps are in Sol B, what loot to aim for, and all that good stuff. Sol B is a really good alternative to Lower Guk. Myself, I often go to Sol B when I've done a few levels at Lower Guk and I'm sick of seeing frogs and I fancy a change. And there's always groups in Sol B, so quite often you will get tells like, hey, you want to come to bats and bugs and so on. And I always like to go in because again, it just keeps it fresh, it's something new and it's something different. And inside Sol B there's also a lot of variety, both in terms of the mobs and the aesthetic, so it can often be a very welcome change for me than Lower Guk. And it also has a very similar level range. It will take you all the way from like level 32 up to potentially 50, although I wouldn't recommend that again, because the XP really does fall off within the last few levels. And it's also a really good place to get loot. Everybody knows that golden Efreeti boots, but even in the lower level Kobold camp, there's the potential for 4 or 5 named mobs at that camp, which made it really interesting on Mischief with the random loot because it was dropping a lot of stuff from Lower Guk. But before we look at the camps and the loot and the mobs that you'll face, let's just have a quick look on how you get to Sol B or Nagafens Lair. As I said, Sol B is located within Lavastorm Mountains, and this is what Lavastorm Mountains looks like on a TLP. If you're coming from P99 or from playing for the first time since back in the day, it will look a little bit different to you. And that's because the zone was revamped for the Dragons of Norrath expansion. But in terms of the zone line, as it used to be, it's in a fairly similar position to the north of the zone. And to kind of get there, you're just going to find a camp with the merchants, past this goblin camp along the western edge of the zone, and there you go, that tunnel there is the entrance to Sol A, but we're not going in there today, that is for another time and another video. Getting to Lavastorm is really easy, there's druid rings right here, and in terms of melee evil, it's either bind at the commons tunnel. I think that's usually easier, whether you're good or evil, because you can always get a port from commons up to Lavastorm, or it's not that far of a run anyway. And outside of the tunnel to Sol B, you'll see the Agent of Change, and that's what you'll use for the instance when you come to a Nagi. But you just follow this tunnel round and then you will hit the zone line. And it's one of those zone lines where the revamped Lavastorm tunnel doesn't match the tunnel in Sol B, which becomes immediately narrow and the graphic quality is not quite there as the Lavastorm one was. So let's have a look at what camps that you will usually hunt at whilst in Sol B. The first one we're going to look at is what is known as the window camp. Now this is probably the worst camp in Sol B, to be honest. There's no named up there, and it's where groups go when there's already a group at the Royals. An efficient Royal group will be pulling and killing from the window area, but this is how you kind of get to it. You're following the path along from the entrance, and once you hit past that little circle room with the mural, it's pretty linear. And here we go, this is the camp because there is a window in the wall. So your group will set up in this room, and your puller's going to be basically following the rest of the tunnels round all the way to the north, and to that one to the west. I think there's a couple down there, and pulling all the mobs they can see and can get. The poles can get a little bit longer at this camp as well, and there's not all that many mobs, to be honest. You know, the most you'll usually face in one room is 2, or maybe there's one room with 3 in it. There's a little pool down there, that's a little bit of an interesting room, but you're not getting the names, and you're not getting some of the density of mobs that you do at other camps. But having said that, getting XP is better than getting no XP. So what I have done with groups in the past, we've come and set up a window because there was already a group at Royals and so on. So we've come to window and we've waited for another pick to open, and we have someone checking the pick, and as soon as it does, we're picking over and then we're going straight to the Royals camp. So it makes a good little filler like that. Having said that, our efficient Royals group should be pulling from up here as well. The next camp I will look at is the Royal camp, and you're going the same way to get there as you do if you're going up to window into the circle room, but instead of taking that easterly path there, you're going to carry on south, and you're going to see 1 or 2 mobs along the way, and once you clear those, we camp here, this little mural room with some interesting drawings on the wall. But this is the camp that I would hang out with in my group, and then you're going to be pulling from the 3 rooms to the east, and they're the royal rooms. When you come here right at the start as a group, it can be a little bit tricky to split the spawns, and what I mean by that is when you come into the room, you see all the mobs are up, which means if you aggro one of these kobolds, all 4 are probably going to come running at you, and there's not a lot of room in which you can try to split them. It's possible, but there's not a lot of room to do it. More often than not, these kobolds all come running at the same time, so you got to be prepared to do 4 at once. So have your enchanter ready and so on, and off tanks, and making sure as little aggro is hitting on your healer. So you see that first room with the king, and then there's this little secret room as well. Don't forget about that one. Some people forget about that. They forget that there's the fake wall right there and completely ignore it. And then just to here in the southeast, there's another big room here with a bunch of spawns, and there's our named the Kobold champion who spawns in this room. And that's the majority of the royal camp, is these 3 rooms. And what you want to do is you want to break up these spawns so they're not all spawning at the same time. You want to do it so a new kobold is spawning every 1 or 2 minutes. There's a gap between them so that you're not always constantly pulling 4 at a time. It's more efficient to keep the pulls going and keeping your puller out there, bringing in more mobs. That's how you will be able to go to these other areas. And you just avoid a trap. If it hits you, no big deal, it doesn't do that much damage anyway. And from this camp, you can also get to Noble as well, who's right here, which is more to the west. He's a bit more of a pain to bring in because he does like to charm, so be wary of that. I've had him charm people, and they start beating on their other groupmates. It's a cool little feature because he's an enchanter that NPCs can do that, and usually that's the first time in this game you will see a mob doing that. Alrighty, next up, starting at the 4-way, we are heading to the Bats and Bugs camp, and you'll often see people referring to that in-game as B&B. It's a nice little camp, and how you get there, very similar. You just head south and follow the path down, and when you start seeing it turn to green and a bit more yucky, you're entering into the spider area of the zone. And there we go, there's our first little spider, the lava duck crawlers, we'll talk about those in a bit. And you hit this 4-way, and where groups like to sit is right here, right in this corner. And this is where you'll be pulling mobs to, because there's fewer spawns here, it's safer. There is a roamer that pass through here, but this is a really good camp from say level 38 up till kind of around 43, 44 is when it starts to slow down. But it's a really good camp, especially if you have an enchanter, because those lava duck crawlers make for absolute awesome pets. They do an absolute ton of damage, and you'll see around you're pulling from all the spider caves. There's some unfortunate victims who got caught by a spider, and you'll see there's sometimes the unique spiders like that. That's the stone spider, that's a named spider. But again, you're running around pulling from all these tunnels. There are a couple of named spiders, stone spider, the noxious spider, and the death beetle as well. And you'll see there's a few more things to see, a few people caught in the webs back in some point. Not like to be them, they're certainly having a bad day, but we're going to take vengeance and kill a lot of beetles, bugs, and bats. And there's a bat right there. The bats are something to be wary of because they have a stun, a really long stun. So if you get hit and they stun you, you're not moving for a few seconds, you're taking an absolute ton of damage. Especially if you have a couple of these spiders on you as well. So just be mindful of that, and you always come back here to the camp. And then lastly, everyone's favourite camp, the Efreeti camp. I always turn right at the 4-way there and head this way if I'm going towards the Efreeti. You can levitate over the lava and cut through that way. If you know where you're going and you're comfortable doing that, then go right ahead. But I like to come this way to try and snipe a noble if he's up. Why not? It's an easy kill of a named who drops loot, so if you're running past, just it's a quick detour just to kill him. Again, you can avoid a trap, it doesn't do that much damage, it hits you. And then when you get to this room, this green goopy room, you just want to follow the path around. And again, I like to take a little bit more of a detour because sometimes there's named up and killing mobs gives XP as long as they're a reasonable level. So I'm looking for the named spiders that like to path along here. In the beetle room, you can see all the blood and the yuckiness, and nope, no death beetle today, but we're going to carry on down this tunnel and we get to the lava and the stepping stones. Now someone in your group is going to fall in if they don't have levitate. It happens every single time, and when you get here, this is where your group is going to be staging to break in, because if you've never been here before, or your group's relatively low level, it's a pickup group, you don't know who you're with, it is a challenging camp, and these first few pulls are really going to make or break your group. I've been in some terrible groups that have wiped these first few mobs in the past. I've been in great groups which have no problem. But you're going to be dungeon crawling from here, and you're going to be facing a lot of these imp protectors, lava guardians. Be mindful of those lava guardians because they are a fire elemental and have a DS on them. And then you come into this kind of huge pit area and you think, oh great, I'll just go to the left, that looks like a nice bridge, and that bridge right here is a trap. You will fall straight into the lava, so don't go that way, otherwise you're going to be swimming back round while taking a lot of damage. Instead, you're going to follow it up this way, pass and killing the mobs as you go. And again, this is another area where you're going to stage for a little bit to break into these caves, which is where you will find the camp. And we always camp right here, which is right on top of where the Efreeti spawns. A really nice camp for probably one of the best items in the game. It's going to be best in slot for most classes early on, the golden Efreeti boots, which have fantastic stats for classic, and all casters wear them, all like druids, shamans kind of wear them, a lot of classes wear them, and they are your best in slot, so you don't want to be spending the chrono if you come here and get them. Oh, the mobs that you'll be facing, firstly, the first few camps that you come to are the Kobolds, the lowest level camp in the zone. They tend to be around level 38. They're either the straight warriors or the shamans for the most part that will try and debuff you and sow all their friends, so be careful of that because they will sow their friends, which means when they hit that low health they're going to run away, and they're going to run away fast, and that's a risk because then they could bring more mobs with them and aggro, so making sure you are snaring them. The next camp you'll typically come to is the spider camp at bats and bugs. See our friends the spiders here, they're a little bit higher level. The lowest ones are the lava beetles, they're around level 38. They are aggressive and they do social and they'll help each other out. And then the lava duck crawlers around level 42, but they have a proc actually that does a dot on you, which is why they're pretty nasty, especially if you have more than one in the camp, because that will start adding up and start doing a lot of damage to you. The bats have a stun, very annoying. And then over at the Efreeti camp, the imps, they're pretty much straight up, no problem, around level 44, then all the way up to maybe, I think, 47 or 48. The lava guardians, you have to be wary of, they have that DS, so every hit you do is going to damage you. So they rip through pets fairly quickly, and are a bit lower than the imps actually. And then you have the Efreeti Lord Dejan. He is level 50 and he's a wizard, and he likes to nuke, and he's going to chuck out a lot of damage with his nukes. The fire giants, not really a camp that you come to XP in because they have a fairly long respawn timer, but people come to them because they drop a load of plat and all that kind of good stuff as they do. The one thing to remember about the giants is they are belly casters, and what that means, if you're a caster, you have to be stood under their belly, hence the name. For otherwise your spells will not land, you'll get the resist message. So you have to be in melee range, you have to be pretty much under their belly. So do remember that if you are trying to cast spells, be right on top of them. And then lastly we have the dragon, Lord Nagafen, or Nagi as we like to call him, who hides right at the back of the zone. If you're here to group, you won't go anywhere near him. He doesn't spawn in picks, he'll only spawn in the base zone, the main zone, and in any of the instances as well. So that's most of the mobs that you will face in Sol B. Now let's look at some of the loot. Much like Lower Guk, there is some really nice loot that comes out of Sol B, and it was good on Mischief because we weren't stuck to getting loot like this from Noble, like the staff, which is best use is to sell to a vendor for a couple of 100 plat, and a neck, which is nowhere near as good as the crafted stuff. Because on Mischief, I mean, who knows what we could get? You could get Lower Guk loot, or more than likely Kedge Keep loot, which seemed to be quite overrepresented, but was interesting because, I mean, who goes down to Kedge Keep to get all of this loot? We had the priest who drops a nice little shoulders and a mithril BP, which is really great for tanks. So at this stage of the game, it's probably going to be the best thing that you have, so I would definitely wear it. From the Kobold King, and on a TLP he will actually be called a Kobold King and not Solosec Kobold King. He drops a nice bracer, the ruined mithril bracer, which is a really nice bracer for clerics. It's got a decent amount of AC on it. It's got strength. Cleric gear always seems to weigh a lot with it being plate, so having some extra strength is always nice, and it has a decent amount of whiz on it to expand your mana pool. The Death Beetle drops an interesting pair of legs with some HP and mana on it. The unique mob, the Noxious Spider, drops an item I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with from back in the early days of Everquest, the green silken drape. Lots of casters used to be running around with that. Unfortunately these days it's just not very good. Also drops a bracer for every class, which has a decent amount of intelligence on and AC on, really good for incasters such as mage or wizard. And then the best named mob probably in the entire game, the Guano Harvester. I don't know why he's green. Maybe he's had so much guano land on him, turn him green, but on a TLP he'll actually be red. But other than that, he's a really interesting mob with a really interesting name who does really interesting things because he's invis. He drops a 100% rate reduction bag, which is really nice, and he drops a Cloak of Shadows, which is a fantastic, I'd say, piece for someone like a ranger. Has an absolute ton of AC on it and dexterity, but it also has some rather nice resists on it. And resists are important, especially disease going into somewhere like Kunak when you're going to need some of those resists. Now the giants, you'll see these a lot, probably when you're raiding Nagi, and less so like when you're grouping, but they are kind of group loot, so I will include them. The Crown of King Tranix is a really good crown for enchanters, absolute metric ton of charisma on it. And then probably the most trolly item in the game, in Classic, the Polished Mithril Toque, has an absolute load of intelligence and wisdom on it. You think, great, perfect for my Intcaster, perfect for a Cleric or a Druid, except they can't use it. It's pretty much only melee that can use it. It might be alright for maybe a Shadow Knight situationally, but yeah, trolly item. Warlord Scarlon, he drops a couple of nice Mithril pieces. Fairly decent armor if you don't have anything better already. Magus Rockle? We'll go with Rockle. He lives in Lord Nagafens' chamber, so you'll definitely see him when you're doing your Nagi raids as well, unless you get really lucky and see he's up in open world when Nagi is down, because he drops a really nice face item, 7 int, 7 whiz, so it's pretty much wanted by all int and whiz casters. But yeah, if Nagy's up like now, you can have a bit more work to try and get him out. And finally, the Efreeti Lord Dijan. Or Jan? I'll go with Dijan. Probably drops the best loot in the zone outside of Nagi. And firstly, it's the golden Efreeti boots. Fantastic boots for classic. Everybody will have them, everybody will want them. So your options are either on a regular server to come here and kill it, or pay a chrono, because that's the typical going rate for these boots. Having said that, this camp will be perma-camped if it's a regular server. I'm thinking back to previous TLPs like Aradun and Mangler. There was farmers here 24/7 in every pick. It was very, very difficult to get that. They had the market cornered. Mischief was a little bit different because you could pick up those Efreeti boots from several camps, so it really opened things up. But whether you come here and get them or pay the chrono, you will want a pair of boots if you are an int or whiz caster. So if you're not coming, you better pay the chrono. And for warriors, there's a really nice ring that drops with an absolute load of HP on it. It's like 80 hit points. It's good for other classes as well, like monk. I love that ring as well. And as ever with the Efreeti, you might get really lucky and see him multiple times in a row. You might just get placeholder after placeholder after placeholder. He's one of those kind of mobs. You hope for the Gebs, you hope that it rains Gebs. And everyone in the group are rolling it because, like I said, it's an easy chrono. The ring sells well as well. You know, it's a really nice farm camp, and that's why so many people come here and try and get it locked down on a regular TLP. So for the Hunter achievements, it's pretty much what you would expect to see with all those named mobs like in every zone we've looked at so far. The Efreeti Lord Dijan, he is on there. So make sure you're getting that camp and getting him down, or checking his up if you're doing a Nagi raid instance for a shot at Gebs and to get him marked off. All of the royals at the Kobold camp are on there, except the advisor. Don't know why, but all the other ones are. The spiders, all the named spiders are on there as well. The noxious spider, the cool yellow one is on it, the death beetle all the way on the path to the giants, and the grey stone spider. The awesomely named guano harvester goblin is also on it. This guy, remember to have seen Viz, because he does invis himself, so if you have seen Viz you won't see him. He also won't aggro, so make sure if you're going up those caves to look for this poop collecting dude, you've got your seeing Viz on. For the giants, the 3 named giants are on it. Tranix, Warlord in his little alcove, Warlord Scarlon's on it as well, and the Magus is also on it all the way in, his lair, in Nagi's lair you'll find Magus Rockle, who is on the list, and him you'll box off when you do your Nagi raid. Okay, looking at the quests that you can complete in Solvi, and surprisingly there's not as many as I thought there would be, given its proximity to the Temple of Sorrow, the quest hub in Classic. But there is this one that's interesting, the Burnt Sash from Imp Protector. Rangers, you're going to want to do this quest because it gives you the Call of Flame spell. It's a damage spell, but that is a spell you will use well into pop. It's pretty long, you need quite a few little items to get it going, and there's like a sub quest as well in Mistmore, but you will 100% need to do this if you are playing a Rager. Clerics, you'll need to come back to hand in an item to this guy Ragefire during Kunark. Unfortunately the prereq is in Timorous Deep, which is a Kunark zone, and I'll talk more about that when we get to looking at the epics. Monk, you'll need to come and kill Targin in the King Room. He drops a book that you need. He's not actually all that difficult. I thought it would be harder than it actually was. When I came to get him on Aradun, he was already dead and the corpse was rotting with the book on it. The Rogue Epic, you'll need 2 weapons here from the King Royal area as well. The Rogue Epic is the easiest one, and these are really easy to get as well. And that about does it for Sol B. Now, my final thoughts about this zone is, I really like it. I think it's a really cool zone that there's a lot to see, and I prefer it over Lower Guk, to be honest. It's a bit more roomy, there's more like diversity in mobs that you're going to be fighting. It's not all just undead froglogs. There is some like cool rooms to see, like Nagi's room if you've never seen it, and the corridors leading up, like really cool designed rooms. And the atmosphere of the room, of the zone as well, is really good. I really like all like the murals around the Kobold area. I was trying to work out, are they the Goblins that did it, or are the Kobolds that drew them? So it is a really interesting zone like that, and there is some good loot to get. The annoying thing about it is, quite often I buy my characters in Lower Guk or near Lower Guk, because that's where you're likely to get a group. So it can be a bit of a trek to get up there. Someone, you get a tell you're going to join some buddies up in Sol B. I can count dozens of times where, say, you ran up there, you got a group, and the group just wipes and stuff like that. So it is a little bit more out of the way. You can get a druid port there though, so from common, so that can certainly help. And it is a zone you will be getting very familiar with if you're going to raid, because you're going to be coming in to kill Nagi once a week. The only thing I'm hoping for TLP 2022 is that they don't kind of go back to how it was, say, on Aradun during Classic, because on there, like, the Efreeti was permanently camped by 2 or 3 people constantly 24/7. No one got a chance to go in and have a look at that, and that's frustrating. And I understand why people do it, right? Because those boots are good and you can sell them very quickly for chrono. If you loot a pair of golden Efreeti boots, you can probably go down to the tunnel, the Kobolds, where everyone does the buying and selling, and sell it for chrono within 10 minutes. No problem. There's so many people after that, which is why it's such a hot commodity item and a hot commodity camp. So for the TLP this year, we didn't get that on Mischief last year, so I do hope for something similar to work that out, so that it doesn't just become a kind of chrono farm repeatedly. But having said that, I've been guilty of doing that. If I get a pair of boots and I don't need it, of course I'm going to go and still roll on it and to sell on it, because that's that's a chrono, that's a 1 month sub. So keep me rolling in the Gebs and keep those Dijan rings dropping, because I'll be there to roll and to win and to loot them. So that's about all I have for Sol B. Again, a fun zone. It's a tough zone as well. I've definitely seen groups do really well here, and I've been in some groups that have gotten to bats and bugs and got absolutely destroyed. And the same thing at the Efreeti camp as well. So I hope this video will help showcase a bit of the zone, where to go and camp, and how to get there, and all that good stuff as well. Some of the prizes that you get for hunting here. And if I had to rate Sol B as a zone to come to, level in and have fun in, I will rate it a solid 4 golden Efreeti boots out of 5 chrono. It would have been 5 if there was some Fire Peak Goblins in here. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to hit that like and the subscribe button. I really want to continue growing this channel and making more of these videos, and every like and every subscribe really goes a long way to helping with that, and it's very much appreciated. Links below for the usual kind of good stuff: Twitter, the Patreon, the Discord, where there's a good group of us hanging out and talking all things Everquest and making a few early preparations for the new TLP server this year. As ever, I am the Brick Canuck. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.